Hello, everyone, and this is a topic which has been going on for the last couple of days, ever since India has lost this test match. But quite frankly, I think the performances of Virat Kohli, let's face it, have been extremely disappointing, and this is not something which has just happened over the last couple of weeks or months. Instead, this is something that we have been seeing for the last 5 years, if not even more. There is this famous dialogue from the movie The Dark Knight. You either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. And I think for every sports person, there comes a time in their career when they have to grapple with this thought of whether it's over for them or should they actually start believing that every great fighter has one last fight in them. So maybe they have that one last season, one last series, one last great performance. I think with Virat, I think it is now evident that unfortunately, he's not just past his prime, but then to be very honest, if you actually look at his numbers and if you take the emotion out of it, if you stop being the fanboy of Virat and just look at this very objectively, I think he's been mediocre at best. Now, here I have actually shown the performances over the last 5 years, and as you can see, against pretty much all the opponents, his performance has been very average, and this is across multiple, let's say, grounds. I did not want to break this down by looking at performances in India, because then there will be people who will probably come back and say, what, there have been pitches which have been very conducive to spin, and maybe that's contributing to him not doing very well. But then when you look at these numbers, these are numbers across multiple grounds. So essentially, what we are being now told is unless it's a batting paradise, it's a flat road. Virat does not really do very well. Uh, if the ball swings too much, like it does in England, he averages 28. If he bounces too much, if it bounces too much, like it does in Australia and South Africa, again, 43 is not really a great average for a player of his stature. And the fact that across 18 innings in South Africa and Australia combined, he has 103 50s. Let's face it, he himself is not going to be very pleased with these numbers. The only place where you see a very good average is probably West Indies. And again, this West Indies is no way closer to the kind of West Indies teams that we have seen in the past. New Zealand, again, where the ball swings, an average of 16 is pathetic. Sri Lanka, where the ball, quite frankly, even if it spins, it's nothing like what it spins in India, is 27. Bangladesh, I don't care what the pitches are, but against Bangladesh across 10 innings, if you're averaging 35, then there is a serious problem. So overall, across 56 innings, Virat has scored 1800 runs and has only 300s. You do your math, I'm not going to break it down even further. 56 innings and 3 centuries, you know how many innings he is taking to actually get to that 100. Now, if we go down a little further, just to kind of add more context, because I know there has been a lot of, and for the right reasons, again, I'm not trying to put it all on Virat Kohli and I'm not trying to bat for Rohit Sharma. The reality is, given Rohit's age and fitness, uh, if it means that for the betterment of the Indian cricket, then that Australia series needs to be his last, then so be it. But the reality is, when you look at the performances, Rohit has actually been among the better players for India over the last 5 years. Ever since he started opening, he actually averages 50 plus, one of the very few players in world cricket to be doing it. He averages 50 plus. He scored more than 2,200 runs. Ravindra Jadeja, the reason I put his name here also is just to showcase that even he averages much higher than, okay, not much higher, but then definitely higher than what Virat does. Virat bats 4, Jadeja for the most part bats 6 or 7, so you also have to factor that in. And given that he essentially either plays with the tail or plays with Ashwin, and maybe under circumstances which are more challenging, his average of 36.5 actually means that he's done so much better than Virat. Joe Root has been an absolute revelation, and his numbers have been absolutely staggering. In fact, in just one single year, I think Joe Root has scored probably more than what Virat has in the last 5 years. The next thing that I want to focus on is for anyone to be truly called the greatest of all time, you cannot be averaging 47 in Test cricket. I'm sorry, it does not matter how you look at this. If you have to be considered, if you have to be put in that category, the bare minimum benchmark is 50. And the fact that Virat at one point actually used to be in the mid 50s and he's dropped to 47 tells you how bad he has been over the last 5 years. There was a time when everybody was convinced that Virat was going to actually cross that 100 threshold mark and maybe even score more hundreds than the great man Sachin Tendulkar. But the reality is, he has just these numbers, and he probably got to his 70th 100 maybe 5 years 6 years back. And the fact that he still hasn't crossed 79 in all these years is actually extremely scary. Moving on, again, the reason I'm actually doing this comparison with VVS Lakshman is the fact that Virat is so celebrated, is spoken of as the alpha male, the numero uno, the biggest cricketer that there has been ever since Sachin Tendulkar. Just to put things in perspective, Virat bats at number 4. VVS, for the most part, has batted at number 6. And look at these numbers. VVS has ended his career with 45.5, which is phenomenal considering that he actually bats at number 6 or batted at number 6 versus someone who batted at number 4 and just 47. Again, I don't want to repeat some of the words which may seem harsh, but then that's the reality. If you want to bring in the comparison with the great man, again, comparison between any cricketers, especially cricketers of two different eras, is absolutely not fair. I get it. I hate comparing, forget about cricketers of or sports people of different eras, not even in the same eras, but just to put things in perspective, Sachin, having played for almost 2.5 decades, started at 16, ended when he was 40, so 2.5 decades, averages almost 54. Now, sometimes I do understand that towards the end of Sachin's career, probably there was some criticism, but then come on. When you look at an average of 54, and here I'm only looking at Test cricket, I'm not looking at one dayers or the T20s. If you purely look at Test cricket, then I'm sorry, but Virat does not even probably deserve to be uh, called one of the Fab Four of this generation. Because let's face it, if I were to pull in another table comparing Virat, Joe Root, Kane Williamson, and Steve Smith, again, safe to say that Virat Kohli will probably be at the fourth. And if you actually do a comparison broken down into chunks of 5 years, in the last 15, I think the only chunk where Virat will probably feature in that list is the chunk of 2014 to 2019. Those were the 5 years when he was absolutely phenomenal. It was his attitude, his hunger, his passion. More than anything else, it was his ability to do things which defied all logic. For instance, when you look at his two innings in his first test match as a captain in Australia, trying to chase down 350 plus, even if we lost the match, every cricket supporter who saw that inning would rate it as one of Virat's best innings because that is what truly told you of what Virat Kohli was. But I think now it's time, and rather than the selectors pulling the plug, I think it's time Virat Kohli actually takes a real hard look and realizes that against a seaming ball doesn't do really well. Tomorrow I could be turning up bowling left arm spin and probably he'll struggle against that as well. I know I'm being extremely harsh, but then that's what seems to be the reality. Can't handle leg spin too well, not just in test matches, but even in T20s, and we have seen that in IPL as well. So, with so many weaknesses creeping in, it's unfortunate. Given his fitness, each one of us, we thought that Virat would probably hang around till at least he was 40. Frankly, he is much fitter than what Sachin ever was. So maybe for some of us, we even thought that he would actually go beyond 40 and play on for probably more number of years. But the reality is the form has deserted him, and somewhere I don't know if it has to do with his own desire or the passion that he had in the past, or if it's just that, I mean, it happens with the greatest of sportsmen, and I don't mean any disrespect. Maybe it's just that it has deserted Virat, and it's time for him to move on. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know your thoughts. I'm sure there are those who have a completely different viewpoint, and everyone is entitled to their own opinion on this.